Every city has its lost souls, wandering between hope and despair. DeSean is one of them, a 16-year-old who ran away from home, hoping to escape the pain he couldn't face, convinced no one would come looking for him. Grief consumed DeSean's family after his father's sudden death. His mother, once his rock, became lost in her own sorrow. Feeling invisible and abandoned, DeSean made a decision that would change his life. Lost in a sea of strangers, DeSean believed he had disappeared completely. But what he didn't know was that someone was searching for him, someone who refused to give up. Mrs. Green, DeSean's English teacher, refused to let him become another statistic. She remembered the boy who loved poetry, always hiding in the back of the classroom. DeSean wasn't just another student to Mrs. Green. He was the boy who turned silence into art, who found solace in words. When his desk remained empty, day after day, she knew she couldn't ignore it. Her search began with questions. Where would a boy like DeSean go? Who might have seen him? Each call, each poster, brought her one step closer, even as doubt whispered in her ear.
Hello.
Have you heard from DeSean? He hasn't been in class.
No, ma'am, I haven't seen him in weeks.
Hello?
Have you heard from DeSean? He hasn't been in class.
I'll check, but we haven't heard anything.
He's withdrawn before, but this is different. I think he might be in trouble.
Each call, each poster, was a step closer to finding him. Mrs. Green refused to let him become just another missing face. Mrs. Green enters a modest shelter, holding a flyer. She approaches a volunteer.
Hi, I'm looking for this young man. His name is DeSean. Has he been here?
He doesn't look familiar, but some kids mentioned hanging out at the subway station nearby. You might check there.
Every no brought her closer to a yes. She wasn't giving up. Mrs. Green descends the steps of the subway station. She begins passing out flyers and asking everyone she can.
Excuse me, have you seen this boy?
Sorry, no.
Excuse me, have you seen this boy? He's about 16, usually has a sketchbook.
Can't say I have. Good luck.
As the hours stretched into the night, hope seemed like a distant dream. But sometimes, all it takes is a glimpse to find what's been lost. Mrs. Green pauses, leaning against a pole, feeling a sense of discouragement. Then, she notices a figure in a hoodie sitting on the ground. Sometimes, the answers come when you least expect them.
DeSean, is that you?
Mrs. Green, what are you doing here?
DeSean, I see you. I see your pain. You think you're invisible, but you're not. You're worth fighting for.
What if I go back and nothing changes? What if she doesn't even notice?
She will, and if she doesn't, I'll make sure she does. You're not alone anymore.
In that moment, two lives reconnected, the one searching and the one waiting to be found.
Let's go home, DeSean.
Sometimes, the hardest journeys lead us back to where we started. DeSean returned home not as a lost boy, but as a reminder of how far love will go to find us. If a man has 100 sheep and one of them gets lost, what will he do? Won't he leave the 99 others in the wilderness and go to search for the one that is lost until he finds it? And when he has found it, he will joyfully carry it home on his shoulders. When he arrives, he will call together his friends and neighbors, saying, "Rejoice with me, because I have found my lost sheep." In the same way, there is more joy in heaven over one lost sinner who repents and returns to God than over 99 others who are righteous and haven't strayed away. The parable of the lost sheep is more than just a story. It's an invitation to reflect deeply on our relationship with God and others. Let's explore 3 vital questions it raises. 1. Am I willing to trust that God values and seeks me, even when I feel unworthy? We all experience moments of feeling lost, whether it's due to mistakes, doubts, or circumstances beyond our control. In these moments, it's easy to believe we've strayed too far, that we're beyond God's care. This parable challenges that mindset. It reminds us that our value is not determined by how perfectly we live, but by the unchanging love of the one who created us. God's search for us is relentless, because his love is relentless. Imagine the shepherd's journey, climbing rocky hills, braving the dark wilderness, and facing danger, all for one sheep. That's how much God values you. Take a moment to think about areas of your life where you feel unseen or unworthy. Can you let go of the fear that you're too lost to be found? Can you trust that God's love for you is bigger than your failures? Write down one area of your life where you feel lost. Then pray or meditate on God's promise to seek and restore you. 2. How can I mirror the shepherd's love? By reaching out to someone who is lost or hurting. The parable doesn't stop with the shepherd finding the sheep. It invites us to be participants in God's mission. Every day, we encounter people who feel disconnected, overlooked, or broken. Some may hide it well, while others are visibly struggling. To mirror the shepherd's love, we must step outside our comfort zones. Just as the shepherd didn't wait for the sheep to return on its own, we are called to take the first step. This could mean offering a listening ear to a friend, reaching out to someone who's been distant, or showing kindness to a stranger. Who in your life might be feeling lost right now? How can you show them the same grace, patience, and love that God shows you? Make a list of 3 people who might need encouragement or support. Reach out to at least one this week with a thoughtful message, a visit, or an act of kindness. 3. Do I celebrate restoration, or do I struggle with comparison and self-righteousness? The parable reminds us of heaven's joy over a single sinner who repents. But how often do we, as individuals, struggle with celebrating others' restoration? Like the Pharisees to whom Jesus told this parable, we can sometimes fall into judgment or envy, forgetting that God's love is abundant for all. This reflection challenges us to examine our own hearts. Do we rejoice when someone else finds healing, even if they've wronged us in the past? Are we quick to extend grace, or do we secretly hold on to resentment or pride? Think of a time when someone experienced redemption or forgiveness. How did you respond? Were you able to celebrate their restoration, or did you struggle with feelings of bitterness or comparison? If there's someone you've struggled to forgive or celebrate, pray for the strength to let go of judgment and share in their joy. This parable isn't just about individual redemption. It's a reflection of God's kingdom, where every person matters. In a world that often values the majority over the minority, the powerful over the vulnerable, and the successful over the struggling, this story turns those values upside down. God's kingdom is about inclusion, restoration, and love. The shepherd doesn't prioritize efficiency or logic. He prioritizes the heart. This calls us to see people, not as statistics or problems, but as individuals with infinite worth. How can you live out the values of God's kingdom in your daily life? What would it look like to treat every person as if they were the one lost sheep, worth seeking and saving? Start small. Whether it's showing extra kindness to a coworker, standing up for someone marginalized, or volunteering in your community, look for ways to reflect God's heart in practical everyday actions. The parable of the lost sheep is a timeless reminder that love doesn't count numbers, it counts hearts. Whether you're the one feeling lost or the one called to seek others, this story is an invitation to trust, celebrate, and embody the grace of God. Rejoice with me, I have found my lost sheep. Luke 15:6. And just as heaven rejoices over one sinner who repents, so should we, celebrating every step of restoration, both in ourselves and in others. Let's live lives that reflect the shepherd's relentless pursuit of love. If this story moved you, share it with someone who needs encouragement. Subscribe for more inspiring modern parables, and let's spread the message of hope together.